Have you ever felt that anguish when you realize your Parkinson's medication just isn't working as it should? Have you ever wondered why some days are so much better than others, even when you strictly follow your medication schedule? Maybe you've noticed that after some meals the tremors seem to worsen, or the muscle stiffness returns with full force, as if the medication had lost its effect. You're not imagining things, and you're not alone in this experience. Thousands of people with Parkinson's live this roller coaster daily, without understanding that what they put on their plate could be silently sabotaging their treatment. Imagine being at lunch with friends or family, feeling well controlled with your medication, and suddenly, after eating a simple piece of fruit, your tremors begin to intensify, the stiffness returns, and that moment that should be one of connection and joy turns into frustration and embarrassment. You know exactly what I'm talking about. Isn't it the feeling that your body is betraying you just when you need it most to function properly? As a neurologist specializing in movement disorders, I've seen hundreds of Parkinson's patients, and one of the most impactful discoveries I share with them is how certain foods can drastically interfere with the effectiveness of their medication, both for better and for worse. The most surprising thing is that many of these foods are considered healthy and are even recommended for the general population. But for those with Parkinson's, they can represent a true saboteur of treatment. Today, I will reveal to you the foods that most impair the absorption of levodopa, the main medication for Parkinson's. And most shockingly, a seemingly harmless fruit that can reduce the effect of your medication by up to 50% in a matter of hours. But don't worry, I will also share with you the foods that enhance the effect of your medication and practical strategies for organizing your diet to maximize the benefits of your treatment. This is information that unfortunately few doctors have time to explain during consultations, but which can completely transform your quality of life and your daily independence. Before we begin, I would like to know where you are watching from today. Leave a comment below and feel free to ask any questions you have about nutrition and Parkinson's before we continue with our next topic. I want to extend a special invitation to you. If you or someone you love is facing the daily challenges of Parkinson's and is looking for reliable, science-based information explained in a simple way, this channel was created especially with you in mind. Here we regularly share practical strategies, exercises, and tips that have helped hundreds of people recover, both small and large. Independence in your daily life. Click the sign up button now. It's completely free, so you won't miss any techniques that can make a difference in your quality of life or that of your family member. Let's start by understanding why nutrition is so crucial for those with Parkinson's. When we talk about Parkinson's disease, we're essentially talking about the lack of dopamine in the brain. The main treatment, levodopa, needs to be absorbed by the intestine, enter the bloodstream, and then cross the blood-brain barrier to reach the brain, where it will be converted into dopamine. This is a delicate process that can be easily disrupted by what we eat and when we eat. First, let's talk about the #1 villain of Parkinson's medication, protein. Among the many nutrients that can interfere with medication absorption, protein stands out as the main obstacle to the effectiveness of levodopa. But how exactly does protein hinder Parkinson's medication? Let's explore together. Levodopa is a modified amino acid, and to be absorbed in the intestine, it uses the same transporter as the proteins in your diet. The problem is that when you consume a protein-rich food like meat, eggs, dairy products, or legumes along with your medication, it creates a real competition in your gut. And guess who usually loses this competition? Your medication. Exactly. Studies show that a high-protein meal can reduce the absorption of levodopa by up to 80% in some people. This explains why many patients report that their medication doesn't seem to work after a meat-heavy lunch or a breakfast of eggs and cheese. It's not that the medication failed, it's that it simply couldn't properly enter your bloodstream. So, what should you do? Stop eating protein? Definitely not. In fact, the most effective strategy is to redistribute protein throughout the day, concentrating most of it at dinner, when, for many people, symptom control isn't as critical as during the active day. You can, for example, opt for a low-protein breakfast and lunch, focusing on fruits, vegetables, and carbohydrates, and leave your main protein sources for dinner. This simple reorganization of your diet can make a dramatic difference in the effectiveness of your medication throughout the day. Let's talk about the most surprising food that can sabotage your Parkinson's medication: the banana. Yes, you heard correctly. That seemingly harmless fruit, which many consider a superfood, can be a real problem for you. People with Parkinson's who take MAO-B inhibitors, like selagiline and rasagiline. Bananas, especially ripe ones, contain high levels of tyramine, a compound that would normally be broken down by the MAOB enzyme in your body. However, if you're taking medications that inhibit this enzyme, tyramine can build up and cause a dangerous increase in your blood pressure, as well as interfering with the effectiveness of your medication. This doesn't mean you can never eat a banana again, but it's important to be aware of this effect and perhaps limit your consumption, especially of very ripe ones, or consult your doctor about adjusting your medication if you're a banana lover. Other fruits high in tyramine that deserve attention include avocados, raisins, prunes, and figs. The most important thing is to observe how your body reacts after consuming these foods. If you notice a worsening of symptoms or fluctuations in the effectiveness of your medication, it could be a sign that these foods are affecting your treatment. Before we continue with the next food, I want to pause to ask you something important. What food have you noticed worsening your Parkinson's symptoms or decreasing the effect of your medication? Is it a specific type of meat, dairy products, or perhaps some fruit or vegetable I didn't mention? This question isn't just out of curiosity. Did you know that many people with Parkinson's feel like no one truly understands the invisible challenges they face daily? You're not alone on this journey. Share your experience in the comments. You can simply copy and complete this sentence. The food I noticed worsens my Parkinson's symptoms. Your comment could be exactly the information someone else needs to read today to feel understood and less alone. Furthermore, your comments help us create more specific content for the real difficulties you face. Now, let's continue with our third dietary villain for people with Parkinson's: high-fat foods. Did you know that a high-fat meal can significantly delay gastric emptying, causing your medication to stay in the stomach longer before passing to the intestine where it will be absorbed? This delay can cause levodopa to take longer to take effect, and in some cases, can even result in a so-called missed dose, when you take the medication but don't feel its effect in a timely manner. This is particularly problematic in the morning, when many people take their first dose of the day with a breakfast that may include butter, cheese, or other fatty foods. The good news is that you don't need to completely eliminate fat from your diet. The ideal strategy is to separate your medication intake from fatty foods by at least 30 to 45 minutes. If possible, take your medication on an empty stomach. Wait about 30 minutes before eating your meal. This ensures that the levodopa has already entered the small intestine, where it will be absorbed before the fat can delay the digestive process. If you notice that your symptoms worsen, specifically after meals rich in fat, such as fried foods, processed foods, or very oily preparations, consider making adjustments to your diet by replacing cooking methods like frying with baked, boiled, or steamed preparations. Now that we know the main villains, let's talk about the heroes: foods that can enhance the effect of your medication and improve your Parkinson's symptoms. First, we have vitamin C, also known as ascorbic acid. Vitamin C is a powerful ally for people with Parkinson's for several reasons. First, it can help increase the absorption of levodopa and prolong its half-life in the body, which means the medication remains active for longer. Second, vitamin C is a powerful antioxidant that helps combat oxidative stress, one of the mechanisms that contributes to the progression of Parkinson's disease. Studies show that consuming foods rich in vitamin C, along with levodopa, can increase its bioavailability by up to 30% in some people. This can mean the difference between a dose that works well and one that is barely noticeable. What are the best sources of vitamin C to incorporate into your diet? Citrus fruits like oranges, lemons, and tangerines are excellent options, but we can also include acerola cherry, kiwi, strawberries, pineapple, and vegetables like bell peppers, broccoli, and kale. A simple strategy I recommend to my patients is to take their medication with a small glass of fresh orange juice instead of water. This provides a dose of vitamin C that can enhance the effect of the medication without adding proteins or fats that can interfere with absorption. In addition to vitamin C, another important hero in the diet for Parkinson's disease are probiotics and fermented foods. Did you know that there is a strong connection between your gut health and Parkinson's? Increasingly, research shows that changes in the gut microbiota can not only influence the progression of the disease, but also directly affect the absorption of medication. People with Parkinson's often have gastrointestinal issues like constipation and intestinal dysmotility, which can impair proper medication absorption. By incorporating probiotic-rich foods, you are essentially repopulating your gut with beneficial bacteria that can improve intestinal transit and create a more favorable environment for levodopa absorption. What are the best fermented foods to include in your diet? Unsweetened plain yogurt is an excellent option, as are kefir, kombucha, and fermented vegetables like kimchi and sauerkraut. If you opt for probiotic supplements, look for ones that contain a variety of strains, especially lactobacillus and bifidobacterium. Always consult your doctor before starting any supplementation. Some of my patients report significant improvements, not only in medication absorption, but also in reduced constipation after starting regular probiotic consumption. A third dietary hero for people with Parkinson's is ginger. Ginger has powerful anti-inflammatory and antioxidant properties, in addition to being excellent for digestive health, which may improve medication absorption. Preliminary studies suggest that compounds present in ginger may even have neuroprotective effects, potentially slowing down as the disease progresses. Adding fresh grated ginger to juices, teas, or culinary preparations can be a simple way to incorporate this food into your daily routine. Now that we know both the dietary villains and heroes for Parkinson's, let's talk about practical strategies for organizing your diet to maximize the benefits of your medication. The first and most important strategy is what we call a protein redistribution diet. Instead of distributing proteins evenly throughout the day, concentrate most of them at dinner. This way, during the most active period of your day, you will have less protein interference with medication absorption. A practical example would be a breakfast with fruit, whole wheat bread with natural jam or honey, a lunch focused on vegetables, complex carbohydrates, and only a small amount of protein, and finally, a dinner where you can consume your main protein source, such as meat, fish, eggs, or legumes. This approach has shown impressive results in several clinical studies, with patients reporting fewer motor fluctuations and off periods throughout the day. The second strategy is to synchronize your medications and meals optimally. Ideally, take levodopa about 30 to 45 minutes before meals, or 1 to 2 hours. After a relatively empty stomach, for people taking multiple doses daily, this may require careful planning, but the benefits are usually worth the effort. If you experience nausea when taking your medication on an empty stomach, one strategy is to consume a small, low-protein, low-fat snack, such as plain toast or some crackers, along with your medication. This can alleviate gastric discomfort without significantly compromising absorption. The third strategy I share with my patients is to create a food diary relating what you eat and drink to the effectiveness of your medication over the course of a few weeks. This record can reveal surprising patterns about how certain foods or combinations specifically affect your body. Many of my patients have discovered very specific food triggers that they would never have associated with their symptoms without this systematic record. For example, one patient noticed that Parmesan cheese specifically caused a dramatic reduction in the effectiveness of her medication, while other types of cheese did not have the same effect. Another patient identified that caffeinated beverages consumed along with morning medication temporarily potentiated its effect, but later led to a more abrupt drop. Remember, we are all different, and Parkinson's manifests itself uniquely in each person. So this self-observation is so valuable. And speaking of individual differences, it's important to mention that some people with Parkinson's develop what we call delayed gastric emptying syndrome, where the stomach takes much longer to send food and medications to the intestine. In these cases, additional strategies may be necessary, such as the use of prokinetic medications that accelerate gastric emptying, or even consider levodopa formulations that don't depend on intestinal absorption, such as patches or infusions. Talk to your neurologist if you suspect this may be your case, especially if you notice a constant delay in the medication's effect or great variability from one dose to another. Another important consideration for people with Parkinson's is adequate hydration. Dehydration can aggravate many Parkinson's symptoms, such as stiffness, and can also affect medication absorption. Try to consume at least 2 liters of fluids daily, preferably water, but caffeine-free teas, natural juices, and soups can also be included. If you have difficulty remembering to drink water regularly, consider using a reminder app or a bottle with timed markings. A question I frequently receive from my patients is whether they should follow special diets, such as the Mediterranean or vegetarian ketogenic diet. For Parkinson's, although some preliminary research suggests potential benefits of these dietary approaches, the most important thing for most people with Parkinson's is to focus on the protein redistribution strategy and the proper timing of medications and meals. This is because the immediate benefit of improving medication absorption usually outweighs the possible long-term effects of specific diets. That said, the Mediterranean diet, rich in olive oil, vegetables, fruits, fish, and low consumption of red meat, has shown promising results in studies on brain health and could be a good option for people with Parkinson's, as long as it is adapted to consider the issue of protein redistribution. Before presenting our next technique, I want to pause to celebrate something that rarely receives the attention it deserves: your small victories in your journey with Parkinson's. Do you remember the last time you managed to accomplish something that seemed impossible, even if it was something seemingly simple to others, like buttoning a shirt without help, walking a full circle around the block, or simply having a day with fewer tremors? These achievements need to be recognized and celebrated because they represent your strength and persistence in the face of an immense challenge. Share your victory in the comments, no matter how small it may seem. You can copy and complete this sentence. My recent small victory was, when I share your achievement, you not only document your own progress, but also light a flame of hope in someone who may be at the beginning of this journey, needing to believe that small advances are possible. Your stories form a mosaic of hope that sustains our community on difficult days. Now, let's continue with some practical recommendations and menus that can help you implement these strategies in your daily life to make it easier to apply this information. I will share with you a sample menu for a day following the protein redistribution strategy. Remember that these are just suggestions, and you should adapt them to your personal preferences and specific medical guidelines. Breakfast. Take your medication with a small glass of natural orange juice or water. Wait 30 minutes and then have breakfast with fruits like papaya, not too ripe banana, if you take MAOB inhibitors, or strawberries with oatmeal. Oatmeal porridge or whole wheat bread with jam or honey. Avoid dairy products like cheese or yogurt at this meal. Morning snack. Fresh or dried fruit with low tyramine content, such as apple, peach, or pear. Ginger tea with honey, optional. Lunch. Start with a salad of green leaves and colorful vegetables. Add complex carbohydrates like brown rice, sweet potato, or whole wheat pasta. Include only a small portion of protein, approximately 30 grams of chicken, fish, or tofu. Finish with cooked or sautéed vegetables such as broccoli, carrots, or zucchini. Afternoon snack. Natural yogurt with fresh fruit and nuts, or a slice of whole wheat bread with avocado. Dinner. Now you can consume your main source of protein for the day. A generous portion of meat, fish, eggs, or legumes, accompanied by vegetables, and a moderate amount of carbohydrates. This is the meal where you don't need to worry so much about protein interference with medication, especially if your last pill of the day was taken a few hours before dinner. If necessary, a calming tea, such as chamomile or lemon balm, can be accompanied by a small portion of dried fruit or nuts. Some important considerations about this menu are: it was designed for people who take levodopa several times a day and who clearly notice the interference of proteins in the absorption of the medication. If you don't notice this interference or are using other types of Parkinson's medications, you may not need to be as strict with protein redistribution. Furthermore, the amount of protein each person needs varies according to their weight, age, and level of physical activity. Therefore, it is important to work with a nutritionist who understands the particularities of Parkinson's to create a personalized eating plan. Speaking of healthcare professionals, an ideal approach to the nutritional management of Parkinson's involves a multidisciplinary team. Your neurologist can adjust medication schedules and dosages. A nutritionist can create a personalized eating plan, and a speech therapist can help if you have swallowing difficulties, which are common in Parkinson's. Don't hesitate to seek this specialized support. It is also important to mention that some people with Parkinson's, especially in more advanced stages, may face additional nutritional challenges such as difficulty chewing and swallowing, involuntary weight loss, or changes in taste and smell. In these cases, specific strategies may be necessary, such as modifying food texture, opting for smaller, more frequent meals, or even considering nutritional supplementation. One of the concerns many patients express is how to maintain an active social life while following these dietary restrictions. After all, meals are moments of connection and celebration, and we can't always control what will be served or the exact times. A practical strategy for social events is to take your medication before leaving home and, if possible, plan the times so that the peak action of the medication does not coincide with the main meal. Another approach is to strategically choose what to consume at a buffet or restaurant, opting for alternatives with lower protein content if it is a special occasion or celebration. Remember that one day away from the ideal routine will not compromise your treatment as a whole. The important thing is to return to a beneficial eating pattern the next day. Now, let's talk about caffeine, a topic that generates many questions among people with Parkinson's. The caffeine present in coffee, mate tea, soft drinks, and chocolate has complex effects on Parkinson's. On the one hand, epidemiological studies suggest that regular coffee consumption throughout life may be associated with a lower risk of developing Parkinson's. On the other hand, caffeine can increase tremors in some people and potentially interfere with sleep, which is already frequently compromised in Parkinson's. My recommendation for most patients is to carefully observe how your body responds to caffeine. If you notice that it worsens your tremors or causes anxiety, consider reducing or eliminating your consumption. On the other hand, you notice beneficial effects such as increased alertness and better control. There is no need to eliminate it completely. Preferably, consume coffee or other sources of caffeine until early afternoon to avoid further compromising sleep quality. Another important aspect of nutrition for people with Parkinson's is bone health. Parkinson's is associated with an increased risk of osteoporosis and fractures due to several factors, including reduced mobility, hormonal changes, and sometimes the effects of long-term medication itself. Therefore, ensuring an adequate intake of calcium and vitamin D is essential. Calcium can be obtained through dark green leafy vegetables such as kale and broccoli, as well as other sources such as fortified tofu and almonds. As for vitamin D, in addition to moderate sun exposure, dietary sources include fatty fish such as salmon and sardines, and eggs. However, supplementation is often necessary, especially in older people or those with reduced mobility. In addition to the nutrients already mentioned, it is worth highlighting the importance of antioxidants in the diet of people with Parkinson's. Oxidative stress appears to play an important role in the progression of the disease. Therefore, an abundant consumption of colorful fruits and vegetables rich in antioxidants, such as beta-carotene, lycopene, and quercetin, can be beneficial. Consider regularly including foods such as carrots, beets, tomatoes, spinach, broccoli, red grapes, and pomegranates. The more colorful your plate, the better. Finally, I'd like to address one last fundamental issue: constipation. Constipation affects about 60 to 80% of people with Parkinson's and can not only cause discomfort, but also interfere with the absorption of medication to combat it. In addition to the probiotics we've already mentioned, it's essential to ensure an adequate intake of fiber and fluids. Fiber can be found abundantly in fruits, vegetables, legumes, and whole grains. Aim to consume at least 25 to 30 grams daily. Regular physical activity, even moderate, also plays a crucial role in combating constipation and brings countless other benefits for people with Parkinson's. For people with Parkinson's who seek to improve their quality of life through nutrition, the strategies we discussed today offer a concrete and scientifically based path. Redistributing protein throughout the day, avoiding problematic foods such as those rich in tyramine and excessive fats, and incorporating beneficial foods such as sources of vitamin C, probiotics, and antioxidants can make a significant difference in symptom control and medication effectiveness. Remember that each person is unique, and what works for one person may not work for another, so self-observation and working together with healthcare professionals are essential. If this video has brought you any hope or useful information, I'd like to invite you to join our support community here on the channel. Living with Parkinson's presents unique challenges that often only those who experience them truly understand. By subscribing to the channel, you'll have access to new videos every week with specific techniques for each Parkinson's symptom, from exercises to improve balance, to strategies to reduce morning stiffness. Our commitment is to bring you content that truly makes a difference in your daily life, filtered and tested by experts, but explained in simple, direct language. Many of our subscribers report that small changes learned here have transformed their independence and confidence. Subscribing is very simple. Just click the subscribe button below this video and then the bell to be notified when we publish new content. Remember, you're not alone on this journey, and every step counts. We want to follow and support your progress and celebrations. Every small victory matters, and we're here to help you achieve many of them. Thank you for being with us today, and we hope to see you in our next video. Take care.